Hello, I'm Steven Santana with B10.com. I'm here with Greg Kasavin of Supergiant Games. So Greg, you guys recently made the announcement that Bastion, from the previous work that you've done, is going to be coming to PlayStation 4. And of course, you guys put out Transistor earlier this year, which was great. Would you like to talk a bit about bringing Bastion over to PlayStation 4?
Yeah, sure. It's coming to the Vita as well sometime next year. That was the extent of what we announced, but we have Bastion for PS4 playable right here, so folks can check it out. Bastion originally came out in 2011. It's our first game, and Transistor's our second. But of all the places that Bastion came to a bunch of different platforms, because thankfully for us, it was a hit, and we kept, we brought it to iPad and PC and Mac and so on, but it never made it to PlayStation for one reason or another. And we kind of, the game has shown just a tremendous amount of kind of longevity, really, much more than we possibly could have imagined when we first made it. So yeah, the opportunity came up to bring it. We had a good experience bringing Transistor to the PS4, and it's been really well received. So we're really looking forward to bringing this game to that platform and that audience, because we think for a lot of people on PlayStation, their first exposure to our studio will have been through Transistor, not through Bastion. So to them, it's like a whole new game. And I think for a lot of other people, they thankfully, again, the game has a lot of fans. So I think we've had a lot of requests over the months for a portable version of Bastion, and also for a PS4 version. So we will be looking forward to delivering.
Very cool. So I really like Transistor, but for those people who don't really know what it is, what is Transistor?
Yeah, so we call Transistor a sci-fi themed action RPG. Simply put, I think those who play it find that it's kind of it's more unusual than that. It kind of combines the immediacy of action RPGs, just kind of like running around and fighting stuff in real time, with this kind of strategic layer that seamlessly integrates with the moment-to-moment gameplay. The story is a big part of it as well, set in this kind of quasi-futuristic city called Cloudbank, where you play as a character called Red, who discovers this kind of extraordinary weapon, and no sooner does she find it than these strange forces appear and are hell-bent on trying to get it back. So she's kind of on the search for answers in the city, and a lot of stuff unfolds over the course of the game. So we like to kind of not say too much about it, let people go into it relatively blind and experience it for themselves.
Yeah. So you mentioned the gameplay with how it's both real-time and strategic.
Yeah.
How many different sort of concepts did you have before you settled on that?
Yeah, so we started thinking about Transistor some months after we finished work on Bastion, and Bastion is like a very it's also an action RPG with a heavy emphasis on the action portion. So it's a lot of timing-based mechanics and very kind of arcadey in its feel. So having done that, we still wanted to keep exploring the action RPG genre. We felt there was a lot left to do there, but we wanted to take it in this more deliberate and strategic direction. We wanted to see if we could combine some of the pleasures of turn-based and tactical games that we loved, over the years, with the immediacy of an action RPG. So that was what we wanted to get to, and we didn't know exactly how it was going to get there. And it manifests in this, in what we call this turn mechanic, where at any point in the game, you can essentially stop the whole world around you, plan your next set of actions, and then execute them in a supercharged fashion. And we found it was a lot of fun to plan something out, kind of deliberate over it on your own terms. It made you feel very powerful, like you were in charge. But at the same time, watching your plan unfold, often it would go just as you expect, but sometimes it would go horribly wrong, and then you have to kind of compensate for it. And the kind of anticipation and drama around that we really enjoyed. So we kept going in that direction.
Very cool. So you guys got the very talented Ashley Lynn Barrett to return from Bastion to do voice work for the soundtrack. How easy was it to get her back on board to do Transistor?
Yeah. So Ashley, who performs the vocal tracks on Transistor's soundtrack, the soundtrack is actually a really big part of the game. The music is a really big part of our games, though we tend not to say too much about that because it sounds weird just to say, but I think when people play it, they understand what that means. Yeah, Ashley, she brings such kind of soulful quality to the music. And she's an old friend of Darren Korb, who is our audio director. So they collaborated both on Bastion's music and on Transistor's music. In terms of how easy it was to get Ashley back, I think Ashley was excited there was a lot of mutual excitement to work together again, especially knowing, like in Bastion, the presence of Ashley's music was kind of a well-kept secret. It was like a relatively surprising moment in that game, whereas in Transistor, her music is really very much front and center. So I think it was exciting for us all around, and we were just kind of anxious to see what the response would be, and the response has been amazing. So,
So you mentioned Darren Korb, who produced the music. So when he was working with you guys, did you explain the concept of Transistor, like the kind of story and theme you wanted to go for, and then let him kind of develop the music from there, or how did you two influence each other as you were developing the game?
Yeah, so that's kind of how it goes. But the key really is that Darren is part of our development team. He's there from day one as we're figuring out the concepts of the kind of games we want to make, and we're thinking about the music and the atmosphere right from the start, because those aspects are important to us. So in addition to Darren just being a very talented composer, I think the fact that we have him on the team working from the get-go, instead of whatever, we have 6 months left of development, let's commission someone to make a bunch of music for us. We never could have done the kind of stuff we've done with music in our games if it was kind of a last-minute thing. So instead, Darren is there in the creative discussions, and I collaborate with him personally a lot, on the story and so forth of and we think of these moments where music can be a big deal and how it can sort of be a key part of delivering the story in certain moments. So that's through our collaboration that those moments are possible, and through having Darren, playing the game and just being a part of the team the whole time, in addition to just having plenty of time to do his thing and make his music.
Very cool. So in the gameplay, you have the functions, which, as you use them in a variety of ways, unlocks backstory for certain characters. Was that a very conscious decision, or was it something more did you want to do other ways of world building, or was that something that you thought would be the best way? Because it also pushes the player to use the functions in different ways.
Yeah, I was really happy with how that was something I wanted to do in the game, all through development, and so I was really happy when it finally came together, and I was really happy with the response to it also, that I think a lot of people enjoyed that aspect, even though it's a totally optional aspect of the game. It's there. Our philosophy towards story is we don't want to kind of shove it in your face. We don't want the story to interrupt your play experience. If you don't want to engage with the story of our games, you kind of don't have to. We think the story has to do a lot of work to engage the player to then care about it, as opposed to just stopping you with lots of cutscenes and stuff like that. So these character biographies that you get through the functions in the game are an example of that, where it's a purely optional part of the game, but I think for people who get into our story, they find them really interesting and really kind of revealing around the world of the game. So what we wanted to get out of them really was that we tell such kind of a focused story specifically about Red, that there's so much going on the fringes of the world of the game, that we wanted to give some more evidence of other characters, other people, and paint kind of a broader picture of this setting. And we wanted to do it through these characters and creating the sense of diversity of the town population through these characters. And also, as you suggested, to help compel certain types of players to try different things without feeling like they were forced to do it. So it's all those different things came together into that system.
Very cool, very cool. So last question. Red in the game is a silent protagonist. So what was the reasoning behind that decision? Was it because silent protagonists are often cited as a way for the player to more become that character? Was that one of the factors of why that decision was made? Yeah,
so I think we wanted to, the silent protagonist is a classic video game trope from games like Zelda and so on, and our first game, Bastion, also has a silent protagonist in a much more traditional way, where he just never talks and you never really think about it. And in Transistor, we wanted to subvert that concept a little bit, and part of our way of doing that is she is silent through events in the story. It's not just a kind of a trope. It's that her voice has literally been taken from her as part of the story. And part of what was thematically rich and interesting to us about the concept for the game was this idea of a character, just this theme of what it means to have a voice in society. What happens when you're a person with a powerful voice whose voice is taken from you? What do you do then? I think to us that was a very resonant and rich theme that was just meant a lot to us, and we wanted to explore. So we, and in addition to that, I think it does do some of what you suggested. It lets you kind of imprint on the character a little bit more and have your feelings kind of become aligned with the character's feelings. But we wanted to play with that as well, where at certain points in the game, Red makes decisions that are not necessarily the decisions you yourself would make. And we think that that's, for us, that's like a big part of the power and the beauty of games, is that they can kind of explore these ideas of agency and, are you the player? Who are you in this world, really? Are you Red, or is she herself? So that all sounds kind of cryptic, but you having played the game, I think you probably understand what I mean, and we hope above all that it just makes for an interesting experience for people.
Yeah, very cool. So Transistor is available on PlayStation 4. When will Bastion be available on PlayStation 4 and Vita?
Sometime next year. We haven't nailed it down quite yet, but it's coming along real nice so far.
All right. If people are interested in finding out more about Transistor and Bastion, where can they go?
We are Supergiant Games on the internet, also on Twitter. Yeah, Twitter is probably the best way to find out whatever we're up to in the moment, and yeah, go to our website as well. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much for having this interview. All right, so for more about Supergiant Games, visit Supergiant Games on Twitter and keep watching our videos for more videos from the PlayStation experience.